What is up, it's your boy Somber, back with another video, and today we'll be reacting to the author that made over 700 mangas by the Masked Man. So make sure you check out the original video. Let me know anything else y'all want me to react to. I'm on my anime bag right now. I was going crazy with the music originally, but like music I enjoy listening to music. Music is always a big part of me. So I'm always gonna promote people's music, but I want to branch out into like other reactions. Like I have always done, I'm always gonna branch out and do different things. This might not even last long. I'm going to go back to music eventually, but we're on our anime bag. But let's get into this video.
Running around in my head, sun's down. I think of you before I go to bed. In love, I swear that we ain't even never met. Ain't romantic, take back everything I said. Said I would never fold again, cause I'm a 3, you a 10. Should've said something you left. Now I'm lonely and depressed. I can't bear to send a text without the thought of you.
On separate occasions on this channel, I've spoken about my favorite manga authors, who I believe to be the ones that have impacted me the most and who've given me stories that I will remember for the rest of my life. However, it's important to appreciate and look back at the people who inspired those people, the era of the 70s and the 60s, and one man in particular who would be known as the god of manga, who throughout his active years as a writer from the 40s all the way to the 80s until he passed away, would create over 700 different series with an unmatched level of versatility. Many of these stories appeasing to...
He made all these. He made the original. Before, if y'all don't know, The Lion King is actually a ripoff of a Japanese series. But he made that. He made, oh my god, he made so much stuff that I know. Yo.
Children and younger audiences, such as the famous Astro Boy, and some appealing more to adults, such as Dororo, Alabaster, and more.
He also made Dororo? I didn't even know this. This is why I enjoy videos like this, because like it's educating me on.
Born in 1928 and would die in 1989, and honestly a lot of his legacy outside of his works is just as impressive. The fingerprint he would leave on manga forever is undisputed, and he by far has the largest one. With the way that he went about writing stories and depicting them in terms of paneling, just his overall style would completely change how manga was done from that point onwards, as well as the versatility in his stories showed that manga could really be a medium for anyone of all ages, and he himself was the perfect example of that. His most prominent assistant, Go Nagai, would go on to create his own work, Devilman, which is the most iconic work of the 70s, one could argue, and would go on to inspire many other series that would take a dark...
predecessor made Devilman? That is crazy. Devilman is like one of the best mangas / animes I have ever watched in my life. Very good. The original is very gruesome, like the anime. I remember watching like an episode and where ripped off a monster girl titty and ate him. Ain't that some shit, right?
approach to manga. He was really ahead of his time. When I go back and read a lot of his works, of course I didn't read all 700 plus of them, but if the request is high enough for it, I might as well try to make a 5-hour long video. But back to the point. Tezuka was so far ahead with his works. Only other series like Ashita no Joe, or some of the few that I go back and read, that I think hold up and age as well as they do now. I think Dororo's a really good one, although there's elements to that story that could be a little forgetful. I think a lot of the concepts of what he tries with the characters is really well done. His style of paneling is also really interesting, as sometimes he'll follow the more traditional things we see in manga nowadays, although other times he'll have paneling that's more common to Western comic books, with a lot of panels going more horizontal than vertical sort of style, which is something that you see Q Hayashida do a lot, which is something I'll talk about in the video discussing Q Hayashida. But Tezuka, as I said earlier, had immense versatility within his stories, and even though he kept a cartoony style, the way that he was capable to come up with some of the more creative but brutal concepts as well is part of what makes him really interesting with his stories that were more geared towards adults. Now, this isn't anything to take away from Tezuka, but it's something that is to be noted, and that's when you read a lot of his stories, especially the more adult-geared ones, you'll find some of the more common personalities overlapping. You'll feel there are some characters that just feel very similar to one from another one of his works, and It's not entirely a negative, but sometimes with some of the stories that are a little less memorable, it's hard to...
When you make a lot of series, of course there's gonna be characters that overlap, but I get what you mean, like, the characters overlap and they're very similar to each other, like, almost exactly alike, but different at the same time, you know? But in general, like, characters will be alike. Like, if I draw something today, I might draw another character in a few years that might look exactly the same.
Really care for him as much as you feel like you've sort of seen this behavior before from a character. But that's to be expected when you write over 700 fucking manga. Now, some of my personal favorites from Tezuka would be Buddha, Blackjack, as well as Alabaster, which ironically is not one of Tezuka's favorites as it was written within a low point of his career, and he personally feels like there were some aspects to the story that he didn't like, especially some of the characters within that story, which are really easy to hate, and I could see why he just wanted to get it wrapped up. It is a story that takes a really dark turn, so it might not be for everyone, but personally, I felt Alabaster was something that was really bold, especially for its time. Another story that I would highly suggest is The Phoenix. It is, I think, the longest series Tezuka took time to make, as it spanned many years, and in fact, he died before completing it, but it's one that's really worth checking out. And of course, the famous Astro Boy. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Astro Boy at this stage in my life. I remember seeing this film that was done over 10 years ago when I was a little kid, and that was my introduction to Astro Boy. But Astro Boy is the most famous of Tezuka's works, and not only his fingerprint on manga would be huge, but of course anime as well, as Astro Boy would go on to be the first real popular television series for a manga, and would be the pioneer for what we now know and love as anime. So reading what is pretty much responsible for what we have today is just a special thing. As well as one of the arcs within Astro Boy would be the main source of inspiration, or in fact would be the straight up thing that the brilliant Naoki Urasawa would adapt to create one of my favorite stories ever, Pluto. If you're really ever feeling tired with manga, I would highly suggest going to check out
I'm not really into Astro Boy as much as like the next person. It was a girl that was in my class. She was into Astro Boy, and I want to say Mega something. He's in Smash Bros. I forget names easily, but I know exactly who I'm talking about. But she's really into that, and it really inspired her shit. Even though I watch anime, I wasn't really interested in Astro Boy, except for the one movie that came out. What else legit? Man, that was my shit right there. I watched that boy over and over. I watch it today.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
What you be saying don't make no sense, my nigga. How you in a coupe with no tent, my nigga? Have what's in your pocket, nigga? Oh, it's lit, my nigga. She asked, do I like her? It depends, my nigga. Pin card, hold up, wait. I forgot my pen, my nigga. Ha, you can't get no money from me. Ha, you can't get a cent, my nigga. Ha, you so common sense, my nigga. Ha, girl, I like your scent, my nigga. Ha.
Tezuka work, because it gives you almost this nostalgic sense of happiness at seeing some of these stories that went on to inspire so many of your favorites. I spent the last few days reading a good amount of Tezuka's works pretty much non-stop, and the amount of creativity he had within his concepts, it's hard to imagine that wouldn't go on to have the influence on the works that we have today, as the current stories are inspired by the previous generation, and without question that generation was inspired by Tezuka. For the most part, again, the paneling and stuff like that wasn't too experimental, but the flow of the read is great, it's easy, it's well done. He understands the themes that he's trying to portray within a story, and he goes about it very, very well. Again, the versatility in which he was able to do so and ranging with stories that are...
Speaking of Yu Yu Hakusho, since he got in my face, bro, Yu Yu Hakusho needs to like get a reboot, like, not because the anime's bad, but I want to see it in a more modern art style. Not art style, but more modern animation style. Cause, bro, I'm telling you, it can compete with every single last anime that has came out these few years.
Go! You can't. Whose mess is this? You put him on the TV. Go home! Bro, don't. Go home!
Just for fun, and are targeted towards more childlike audiences, to more adult stories that are really able to get very, very dark for a lot of the material that came out during that time. And not even just dark for the sake of being dark, although you could use some criticism for some of the stories if you wanted to. I think his ability to captivate you emotionally is superb. I also think that his character interactions come off as natural, although sometimes if there was one criticism I would give, and it could be due to the fact that they're very short stories most of the time, so he's trying to keep the pacing moving along, is he can get a little exposition happy, where instead of slowly seeing this played out with the character, you just kind of get a big backstory from said character and then you move on with it, but what are you gonna do? And no matter what story you're looking for, I guarantee you Tezuka has one that will fit what you're looking for. Now, going back earlier with his influence on anime, beyond just Astro Boy, he would head Mushi Productions as well as Tezuka Productions, which would be responsible for a lot of the Tezuka series that would go on to have adaptations. It would go on to adapt other series as works as well, not only in series form, but as well as in films. The most notable of which would be Ashita no Joe, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and OVA for that series, and they would even be commissioned to do Frosty the Snowman, which came out in 1969. That stuff would be accredited to Mushi Productions. Tezuka Productions would go on to actually have a lot of its own films and anime series as well, again, largely for Tezuka's works, of course, and even some video games, which are mostly Astro Boy. When it comes to Tezuka, I think one can truly see the embodiment of a love for the craft. As most of us, and this isn't to slight any other manga author, just it's more so praise for Tezuka, most author series could fill maybe one piece of your bookshelf. There's an image of this there's an image of this guy with volumes of his series covering the entire floor he's sitting on. It's the craziest picture I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, all this, it's mine. But Tezuka is the perfect example of not only having an amazing legacy and a fingerprint on an entire industry, but as well as his works in and of the...
Yeah. Nah, that's crazy. When you make over 700 manga, you're basically sitting on a manga throne. That's why they call him the manga god. You said it yourself. You feel me? It was to be expected. I wouldn't expect no less from the manga god. He made Astro Boy. He made the original Lion King. He's him. He's that god. He's really him.
Nigga, shut the hell up and eat a cinnamon roll.
Themselves have aged really well, a good amount of them, and I think are worth reading to this day. And it's without question that the most important man in all of manga and anime history is Osamu Tezuka, the father of manga. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos on some of your favorite anime and manga, comment, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications. That way you're notified on some of your favorite stuff. This has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.
Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys check out the original my comment on this. So I'm so glad that he made this video. This video is like super good. It's very educational to me, because as somebody that reads manga and is in the anime community, I like to know more. You feel me? He's the god of anime. He made Astro Boy, the original Lion King. He made all that. He's him. Now I know who's really him. My favorite manga artist ain't got shit on him, because he really made my favorite manga artist really his son for real. And that's fire. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Love y'all boys. Peace.
Don't you notice how I get quiet when there's no one else around? Me and you and awkward silence don't